Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming or Battlefield-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that can be featured in a future episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a YouTube message. So the first question for today is, what do you think of adding various ammo types and optic attachments for the non-guided rocket launchers on Battlefield 4? In order to give more role diversity to the engineer class, like having an anti-troop or anti-vehicle specific to make the game more fun and tactics towards different maps. In like real life, the RPG and the SMAW and other similar rocket launchers have different ammo types and optic attachments. I'm all for giving the engineer a little bit more variety when it comes to the customization of their, their different gadgets and their RPGs and things like that, and having different optics would be a good way to go about it, but I wouldn't want to have an infantry-specific rocket and a vehicle-specific rocket, because if you've ever played Battlefield Bad Company 2, there were a distinction. The RPG was better at taking out vehicles, and then they had the Carl Gustav, which just destroyed infantry, and people would run around with those as a primary weapon, and they would do really well with it. And it got to the point where they would use the specialization, the explosive specialization, so that they had a larger blast radius, or the explosives did more damage, and it was devastating. And while I'm assuming that they're not going to have one of those specializations in Battlefield 4, I wouldn't want DICE to give incentive to players to just run around with one of those as a primary. So I wouldn't really want that in the upcoming game, but definitely more customization and a couple of more options for the engineer class, at least with the optics, I think is definitely a solid idea. So the next question for today comes from Bamsy Young, who asks, what do you think about adding the game mode free-for-all like so many other first-person shooters out there have? So recently, this question has been coming up a lot, which is probably because a lot of people are coming from the Call of Duty franchise and they would like a free-for-all mode, or like you said, all first-person shooters usually have some sort of mode like this. And I honestly don't believe that DICE will do that for Battlefield 4, and I think that's mainly because they like their game to be very team-focused. A lot of their game mechanics revolve around teamwork. I mean, they have spotting, they have squads, and if you got rid of the squad system and you got rid of all of that, then the game itself devolves into something that they're probably not trying to create for the upcoming game. And not only that, but they also kind of illustrate that in Battlefield 3 with Gunmaster. I mean, Gunmaster is pretty much a free-for-all game mode with teams. It's really bizarre. I mean, you have two teams, but you're basically fighting against everyone for that top slot. And I'm assuming the reason why they didn't make it free-for-all was because they wanted to have those constraints. Like, you are on a team, this is Battlefield, you need to have teamwork, you need to have two different sides. But it honestly doesn't really work for Gunmaster. It's actually pretty frustrating as a game mode because there are two different teams and your allies are stealing kills from you, and that doesn't contribute to your score by any means. And so it's just a really awkward game mode in general. And so it's for that very reason, and for the things that I mentioned earlier, why I wouldn't really expect a free-for-all game mode in Battlefield 4. The next question for today comes from Joey, who asks, I was wondering for Battlefield 4 if you should make it so that the weight of a weapon changes how the player interacts with the weapon. For example, if you had a huge light machine gun, you would run around slower and ADS a bit slower. It would be more realistic, but most importantly, encourage the player to play their role, like not running and gunning with a LMG, for example. What are your thoughts? Now, this would definitely make things more realistic. If you do have a giant gun, you're definitely not going to be able to aim down sight as quickly, and it's going to take you longer to go from point A to point B. But you have to remember that DICE is trying to balance things out. So what would you gain for using a light machine gun? If it's going to take you longer to aim down sight, and it's going to take you longer to get from one point to the other, what are you going to get for that? Like, what is going to be the advantage of using a light machine gun? And if it's anything like it is in Battlefield 3, there wouldn't be an advantage at all to using it. And I know that they are making some changes so that the support weapons actually suppress more than the assault rifles and the weapons for the engineer class, which is great. They are really trying to define the support role and giving them kind of something more on the battlefield. But at the same time, if you did this, I feel like it would take away a lot of their power, and it would just get to the point where you would just find a bunch of camping support players all over the place, not really moving around the map. And it sounds like that's kind of what you want, but from a gameplay perspective, I would kind of want to move around a little bit more if I am playing as a support. I still want to play as a, that support role, and I want to help out my team, but at the same time, I don't want to feel like I have just this huge burden on me simply because I'm using a much larger weapon. And at the same time, you just have to remember that this is a video game. And I know some video games out there have tried to make this distinction. They do make it so that if you are using a very heavy weapon, you do move slower around the map. And I guess I would be kind of fine with that as long as the weapons themselves were pretty amazing and they were devastating if you were set up and you were entrenched in a location. Then I guess I would be fine with that. But if it's anything like it is in Battlefield 3, I think it would be just a gigantic nerf to the support weapons, and I really wouldn't want that. Now, the next question for today comes from Lou Let's Play, who asks, in Battlefield 3, you have to get kills to unlock weapon attachments, but especially LMGs are designed to suppress and support, so you get less kills. What do you think about unlocking attachments by points, but not by kills, so you could unlock a new sight by suppression or assist? I actually really like this idea, and while I wouldn't want it to be where if you were playing as a support player and you just put down a bunch of ammo crates all over the place, I wouldn't want those points to go towards your weapon because I feel like that could be abused a little bit. But it would be nice if you were playing with a particular weapon, and as long as all the points that come from that, from assists and the suppression effect, then yeah, absolutely, it would really help out kind of the support class in general. It wouldn't make things dramatically different by any means, but one of the things about playing as with the light machine guns is that yes, trying to unlock them can be a little frustrating at times, and even for the personal defense weapons, there are many times when I was trying to upgrade the MP7 like a year ago, or even the PDWR, where you don't start off with the extended mags, and those weapons thrive on the extended mags, and you would get assists all over the place. You'd get a bunch of suppression assists as well, and you would be no closer to getting that crucial unlock. And so I would like a system like this. Like I said, it wouldn't change things dramatically. It would just be a nice addition to the game. But that is about it for today's Sunday Mailbox, guys. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you have a question that you would like me to answer in a future episode, like I said, you can leave a comment down below or by sending me a YouTube message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.